This is everything I wish someone told me before traveling with a baby. Before our first flight with our daughter, I was so stressed. Like, I had been thinking about it for weeks, like honestly, maybe even months. I was just doing so much research. I was watching videos, I was reading blogs, I was scrolling TikTok, just trying to feel a little bit more prepared. And I feel like all of the information was just kind of everywhere. Like, you had to piece it all together from a bunch of different places or sources just to feel semi-confident. And what made it worse is that most people's like first flight with a baby is like an hour, maybe 2 hours. Our first flight with her was an 11-hour flight from London to LA. So yeah, I was spiraling a little bit. I genuinely thought it was going to be one of the most stressful travel experiences of my life. So that is what inspired today's video, just giving you my honest experience, what actually happened, what surprised me, and hopefully helping you feel a little bit less stressed going into your first flight with your baby. I'm going to be completely honest. I thought it was going to be the worst flight of my life. I had mentally been preparing for nonstop crying, her being completely overstimulated, not sleeping at all, people all around us being just so annoyed with me and hating me, and me just being stressed the entire time. And to make it worse, she's already not a great napper. So in my head, I was like, well, if she barely naps at home, how is she possibly gonna nap on a plane? And I just pictured 11 hours of chaos. But honestly, it was so much better than I expected, like significantly better. And that started from the very beginning, getting to the airport, going through security, boarding, the actual flight, everything, like the whole process. And I think this is the most important thing that I can say right away. The anticipation was way more stressful than the actual experience. The idea of flying with a baby was scarier than actually doing it. So if you are watching this and just stressing so much, I get it. I was literally you, but just know that it might go way smoother than you think. So starting with getting to the airport, our first decision that honestly set the tone for everything was that we decided to stay at the airport hotel the night before. Originally, we had planned on taking public transportation around maybe 6 a.m. to make our 11 a.m. flight out of Gatwick. It takes about 2 hours from our house that we used to live in Twickenham via public transportation. Plus, you know, getting there early enough since we had never dealt with checking in a stroller, a car seat, all that kind of stuff. But a few days before, we started getting really stressed about the trains being unreliable, and if anything were to go wrong, we could miss our flight. So we decided to go the night before and stay at a hotel. And I'm telling you right now, that was the best decision that we made, because trying to take the train and the bus with a stroller, a car seat, 2 huge suitcases, 2 small suitcases, backpacks, and a baby, with train delays already happening, it was honestly such a nightmare. By the time we did get to the hotel that night, we were just so done. So being able to just go to bed, wake up feeling refreshed and ready for the day already at the airport made everything just so much more relaxing and enjoyable to start everything off. Now for the actual airport experience, something I didn't realize beforehand is that pretty much every airline includes a free stroller and a free car seat checked, and it doesn't count towards your baggage allowance, even for a budget airline like North Atlantic, which is what we flew from London to LA. You have the option to check them in at the check-in counter or keep them with you, and then you can check them in at the gate. If you check them in at the counter, they'll be on the luggage carousel after your flight, so you won't have them at all during your airport experience before or after the flight. But if you do check them in at the gate, they'll be waiting for you right when you get off the plane. Our daughter hates being strapped into anything, especially the car seat and the stroller. So we opted to just check them in at the counter and just be rid of them. So right away, those were gone, along with our 2 big suitcases, and all we had left was our 2 small suitcases, backpacks, and I had her in the carrier the whole time on my chest, which was an absolute lifesaver. If I have one piece of advice for going through an airport with a baby, it's to bring a carrier, specifically a sling wrap if you and your baby like that, because it's just so much more comfortable for both you and can help them nap later on the plane, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. For TSA, you are allowed to bring milk and snacks for your baby. They just need to check them and test them, obviously. So make sure you are there early enough, because your bag will get flagged and checked. So make sure you have enough time for that. You can bring an ice pack, but if it is melted or slushy, it might get thrown away. I ended up bringing a bag of ice, which of course they threw out the ice, but then immediately I was able to refill it at a coffee shop, and then I just kept refilling it on the plane, which worked perfectly for keeping milk cold all day because we were gone for like 16 hours. So I just felt like an ice pack wasn't going to do it for us. I originally thought I was so smart, and I was like, oh, I'm going to use my frozen breast milk as ice pack, but I read online that that might not be allowed, so I didn't risk it. But if anyone has had experience with that, please comment down below, because I would love to know and share that with other people, because it does seem like a good idea to use it as your ice pack. Then once it melts, you have extra milk for your baby too. And another reason why I recommend a sling versus a traditional carrier that would have metal on it maybe, you can walk through the metal detector with your baby in the sling, and it's just so much easier. And once you go through security, you go to your gate like normal, of course, and you typically do get to board first with your baby. But this is something that I saw online and it was a total lifesaver for us. Wait, be the absolute last person on the plane, especially for international flights. You board like 45 minutes early, which is 45 extra minutes of your baby being confined in this small space sitting on your lap. Instead, my husband boarded first with the bags and I stayed back. I played with her, walked around with her, tried to get her as tired as possible before getting on, and I highly recommend this. Now for the plane itself, for larger international flights, there may be an option to book a bassinet seat, and I highly recommend that. It does cost extra and requires specific seats, but even if you think that your baby won't sleep in it, which mine didn't, it's still worth it because it gives them their own space. It basically became like her little play area, so she was just kind of lying there looking at her toys, rolling around in place and just having fun. It gave her a break and some freedom, which is so important because they're basically just confined on your lap the whole time. And when it comes to taking off and landing, because of the air pressure, I read that it was really good to have them suck on something. So if your baby is a pacifier user, have them do that, maybe drink some milk, something where they're just doing a sucking motion, because again, I don't know if it would have changed anything, but we did that for both the takeoff and the landing. And she didn't cry at all, and I didn't feel like she had any pressure in her ears or anything uncomfortable, so I would recommend doing that too. And sleep was definitely the hardest part. Your baby is so stimulated. It's gonna be hard for them to fall asleep, especially if you have a FOMO baby like mine, a fear of missing out baby. There is no way that she was gonna fall asleep on her own. She just has to look at everything all the time. So what worked for us, if you do have a baby that's similar, was I put her in the sling, I took her to the bathroom with the lights off. You have to keep the door unlocked so that way the lights stay off, because as soon as you lock it, they turn on. So my husband was literally just like guarding the door outside. I brought a portable sound machine, which probably wasn't necessarily because the plane itself does put off white noise, but I do think it did help just because of the familiarity with that specific white noise. It just kind of what she's used to. So I was just in there just bouncing like crazy trying to get her to go to sleep. It was so hard and I was sweating by the time I came out. And even when she did sleep, it didn't last long because of the noise, you know, but honestly, any sleep on a plane was a win in my eyes. I think the biggest thing that I stressed out beforehand was not wanting her to cry and have everyone else around us just be annoyed or hate us or like giving me dirty looks, and that just caused so much unnecessary anxiety. I got lucky. She barely cried. She only was crying when I was trying to rock her to sleep because she was just so exhausted. But my husband said you couldn't even hear it outside of the bathroom. So it wasn't a big deal, but even if she did cry, she's a baby. Babies cry and it happens. You just get up, you go to the back, go to the bathroom, try to calm them down, do whatever you can do. There is no point stressing about it beforehand because it's not gonna change anything. I know that is easier said than done, but I do really wish that someone had just kind of told me that before, because it would have saved me weeks of sleepless nights just like stressing about it. In terms of packing, I definitely overpacked. I brought like 6 outfits because I didn't know, like, would she be too hot, too cold? Would she have a bunch of blowouts? Because that was during her, you know, blowout pooping phase. But realistically, you don't need that much. I would say bring 2 to 3 onesies if your baby is in the blowout poop phase like early, plus 1 warm outfit just in case it does get chilly on the plane. That's it. Don't go crazy. Focus more on the things that will actually entertain your baby, and honestly, even simple things like water bottles that they were handing out or like everyday things on the plane just kept her so entertained. One thing I do highly recommend though is bringing a change of clothes for yourself, because about 2 hours into our flight, she did have a major poop blowout and that got all over me. And I was so glad I had an extra outfit because sitting like that for 9 more hours would have been awful. So would I do it again? Yes, 100%. And I did not think I'd be saying that before the flight, but now having gone through it, it feels way less intimidating. We actually already took her on another flight, just 2.5 hours from LA to Austin when we moved here. And the biggest thing that I changed was my mindset. I can't control if my baby cries or gets upset or if people get annoyed with me. So I'm not going to stress about it. And again, she did great. She barely napped. She only slept for about 30 minutes, played most of the time, and only cried again when I was in the bathroom trying to rock her to sleep because she was just so overstimulated and so overtired. But overall, it was a win. So if you're about to take your first flight with your baby, I know how stressful it feels, but just know that you're more prepared than you think. Your baby is more adaptable than you think, and it probably will go better than you expect. And I really hope that my honest experience helped you feel a little bit more confident going into it. If you have any questions or you want to share your first flight experience with your baby, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear how it goes for you or how it went if it already happened. Now let's take a look at why we are on that flight in the first place, leaving London after living there for 3 years and moving back to the US.